Hello and welcome everyone to the second episode of the International Basketball Association podcast. Today we are here for our second episode, so let's just get right into it. I'm here with three other guys, Anthony Love, Bench Beast, and Query. How it's going, guys?
Everything great.
Fine.
Pretty great, man.
Yeah, great. We're right in the playoffs right now, so we'll just start with a roundtable, more focused on the playoffs, looking at what's happening right now. How about you start, Query? What's your theme this time?
I wanted to talk about Rajon Rondo, and there are two common narratives about him. The first is player of Rondo. The last 6 games, excluding the game versus Golden State, he's helped his teams win 6 upset victories. And in those games, he's averaged 11 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds. But when Rondo was asked about this, he denied that that player of Rondo was a thing. I have a few quotes here. He said, "I feel like when I get a certain amount of minutes and when the coaches allow me to be me on the court, I'm Rondo. There is no player of Rondo." And he also said, "I don't think you can be a 4-time All-Star just from the playoffs." So what do you think? Is player of Rondo a real thing, or?
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's a really intelligent player in the court, so that's the type of things that in the playoffs step out. So if you add that to a point guard who has like big as fuck hands and also has a 6'10" wingspan, you create a player that's almost a demigod, regardless of the fact that he can barely shoot. So yeah, player of Rondo is great, and the Pelicans have a gym in Rondo.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like Hassan Whiteside a bit, that like he needs a challenge to really step up to his true level. I think that was be able to be seen when he was with the Mavericks, when really nothing was clicking, but now he's in a good environment and he's challenged and he's living up to challenge. I mean, nearly a triple-double. He's the maestro of the offense. Really, some amazing playoffs from him, and without him, I don't think they would have beaten the Portland that easily.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, he's also said that he needed the right environment, the minutes, and the right coach. And I actually partly agree with Rondo. Yes, he plays slightly better and tries harder, but that mostly goes for every player in the playoffs. So yeah, he is slightly better, but not like much better. It really also depends on the environment he's in.
What makes it more flagrant too, I think, is that he pretty often underperforms in the regular season in regards to what he can do in the playoffs.
But
Yeah,
only
I don't
if
think he
he's
tries
in a
at all.
terrible. Only if he's in a terrible situation, like in Sacramento or Dallas.
Well, in Sacramento, he lead the league in assists, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's that bad at like all of them. So
Yeah, that's true. I don't think like where you're in the stage on the career like Rondo is, regular season doesn't matter that much for him. So it's really easier to perform in a 10-game span like the playoffs, regardless of stepping up in a long 82-game season. So I understand the mentality of going off in the playoffs and then in the regular season try new things, try to contribute but not give it all in the court.
true.
I think the other thing too is that like if you think about it, prior to the season, Drew Holiday was a point guard, and then like they brought in Rajon Rondo, and everybody's like, why are you bringing in another point guard when you already have Drew Holiday? So I think like part of the season was just him like adjusting to the system and all that. And even then, he still had a pretty like good regular season. I think he was like third in assists somewhere. So like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good point. I mean, it wasn't meant to be that easy to run like a 2-point guard lineup.
But
Yeah,
Holiday
especially
has
when one of them can't shoot.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
And,
that the two-ball handler system that is getting more used to in the NBA, like playing Harden and CP3 in the same time, I think that it's really good for the team because like focusing on just a one player throughout his offense isn't as effective. You need someone who can support you. So I feel that for in the first games, like you said, Holiday and Rondo needed some time to adapt their games, but now for the playoffs and for the future, it's really, really better for them.
for sure. And Rondo is also known to be one of the highest IQ, to have one of the highest basketball IQs. And that's caused also maybe bad reputation as a teammate. But I don't think that's justified because a lot of teammates and coaches of his have had pretty positive comments about him. And recently, he's also said he wants to be a coach and general manager in the future. So, do you think he could be a decent coach or a GM?
Meh. I don't think he would get that psychological part of coaching or general managing right. Because I mean, he's a great basketball player and especially has a very high basketball IQ. And probably the strategic parts would be mastered very, very well by him. But I don't think he would manage players well.
Gentry has already said that he runs like film sessions and part of the practices. I think he could easily do it, to be honest.
Wow, that's impressive though. Like, but yeah, I also agree with the Red Mamba because I see Rondo as a really self-proud player. So maybe that attitude may not be as effective when you have to coach players. So it depends. People change throughout the time. So we will see how Rondo is as a person after finishing his NBA career.
Yeah, there's been a lot of great NBA players that have gone on and tried to be coaches or GMs and all that kind of stuff, and it's like failed miserably. So you always like take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt because a lot of like I've always found that like talent kind of overshadows IQ. So when you take a player like, if you take a coach like Greg Popovich, he was a pretty bad player, but he made up with, but obviously he has enough ball IQ to run a team really well. So yeah,
But do you
I don't know
doubt that Rondo has too little IQ, or
No,
I
no.
think Rondo has the IQ, but I don't know if because with Popovich, it's not like Popovich covered any of his game with talent, right? Like the reason he was in the NBA at any point was because of purely based on his IQ. Whereas Rondo's a really talented passer and a really talented ball handler. He can't shoot, but like he's still, I don't know. That's my personal thing on it. Is just like a lot of players, I don't think most players don't make good GMs or coaches, but that's just what I've noticed.
we'll see.
Yeah. Well, now that we talked about Rondo, let's just continue with other topics. Anthony Love, what do you want to talk about?
So I picked the Raptors. So they just finished off the Wizards, and they finished the Wizards in 6, and this was like a close series, and obviously it was pretty good for the Raptors to win because they've been pretty inconsistent in round 1. It's gone to a couple of game 7s that shouldn't have gone to game 7s like a couple of years ago with the Pacers. Last year with the Bucks. So it's for them, round one's always been a little bit taboo, and they pulled it off. But they still didn't pull it off in impressive fashion, in my opinion. Like the Wizards are like the equivalent of a high school clique of girls that are just like there was so much drama with this team that you just like, how did the Raptors, who are like such a cohesive unit, have like great bench and two talented stars? Like, it took you 6 games and most of them were close. DeRozan showed up, but he only showed up for 3 of the games. He dropped like 30 points in each of them, which is pretty impressive. And Lowry had a couple of inconsistent games. So I don't know. A lot of people have been saying this is
the Wizards really aren't the typical 8th seed, I'd say, because Wall missed half the season, and they still have plenty of talent.
Yeah, but I think the Raptors have like more talent, and they're like,
that's not why they won.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you take like Oklahoma and Utah. Like, Oklahoma had oodles more talent than the Jazz, and yet the Jazz still beat them in 6 games. So I don't think, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that this is the Raptors. A lot of people have been saying this is the Raptors' year. They're finally gonna make it out of the East. They're gonna beat Cleveland and all that. I don't know with DeRozan. I don't know if they've proven it in round one that they're ready to go. They're ready to be the superstars that are going to carry this Raptors team to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, that's true. I don't see the Raptors as a normal finals quality team, talent-wise, but looking at how weak the East is this year, you have to consider that they might be able to go to the finals because, like, if you beat LeBron next round or the Indiana Pacers, which I don't think will be much of a problem for them, next you're facing probably a Sixers team, which sure is really good, but you have to remember that it's a team led by a rookie and a sophomore. So the fact that the Raptors may go to the finals is more than being, well, how great are the Raptors is how weak is the East. So that's maybe why people see this as the Raptors team. Next season, the Boston Celtics will rule the East and basically the NBA. So that's why all the fan base of the North is focusing this year in winning, regardless of thinking for the future, just because of the situation of the other teams.
Well, also, I don't even see the Raptors making the Eastern Conference Finals, to be honest, because if Cleveland wins tonight and advances, Raptors have nobody to defend LeBron, like just as every year, to be honest. And if it's the Pacers, I don't know. I mean, Toronto would probably be huge favorites on paper, but I think the Pacers have shown the better playoff mentality and are less reliant on their star. I mean, Oladipo had a few bad games, and the Pacers still forced the game 7. While, I mean, every time DeRozan has a pretty average game, Lowry isn't there to back it up. Even if they got a good bench, it's not really working for the Raptors.
Yeah, like, and we were talking about this earlier. I think LeBron is just so far inside the Raptors' heads that at this point you just like, I don't think they can. I just don't think the Raptors can beat Cleveland because they're just too far inside their own head. And I think if the Pacers get there, like, we've seen Lance Stevenson, like, LeBron's pretty mentally tough, and Stevenson still gets to him. You take, like, DeRozan against Stevenson, that's just going to be a tough series for him. Stevenson is just going to keep trolling DeRozan until
That's true.
he just keeps joking. So I would take... I'm leery of the Raptors making much noise. Even though they won 59 games, I just don't believe in them at this point.
If the Pacers matchup against the Raptors, I think Toronto should be able to win. But if LeBron has to go against Toronto, Toronto will get destroyed, I'm afraid. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's been a pretty rough stretch. 'Cause, I mean, Toronto's having the best 5-6 year span of its franchise history right now, but still, I don't think they'll ever make the finals in that stretch, and winning anyways not. Yeah, I think we talked enough about Toronto. So bench piece, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I wanted to talk about Portland. As is well known, they lost to the Pelicans. They were swept. Most people expected a close series where there was Blazers in 7, Pelicans in 7, but I don't think that anybody thought that the Pelicans would sweep them. So that for me makes us consider what's next for Portland. Like, they were the third seed this year, but coming into the season, nobody expected them to be that high. So, I feel like that third seed argument is kind of subjective. They were just like 3 games out of the playoffs. So, I think it's the summer to make a change. What do you think that should be? The change should be.
They have to get rid of Evan Turner, obviously.
Well, who's going to get a guy who's not as productive as even scoring 10 points and has like a 18 million contract? Like, I don't think they would be able to make a trade for him.
Yeah, you're gonna have to call up Billy King on that one. Like, that's a
Someone will have to sign Isaiah Thomas as the GM to take Evan Turner. Like, for me, the most ideas I had was whether trading Lillard or McCollum and bring a wing star who can spread the floor and play defense, or just not re-signing Nurkic, who's a free agent this summer, and bringing another two-way star to the team. But I don't know. I feel like Nurkic brings that defense and that inside presence that the team needs. For me, if I had to take the direction, it would be changing the backcourt. I don't think they are going any far with that team in the playoffs. So as sad as it is, like, they are 2 great players, but they don't mesh at all. So what offers do you see happening?
I was thinking about this. What if you wanted to blow it up? This is saying like you're going in a full rebuild mode. CJ McCollum straight up for Andrew Wiggins, because I think Wiggins, obviously, he said that he isn't happy in Minnesota, and so it would make sense. I think he still has potential to be better. I think he just needs to be the number one guy on a team. So that would mean you would trade Lillard too. But yeah, CJ would be perfect on the T-Wolves, because then you just put a guy who can shoot, play off the ball, but then also be a ball handler when Jimmy Butler or Jeff Teague is out of the game. And then their salaries match up perfectly too. So I think that could be a trade that Portland makes for sure.
I like that idea because, Wiggins hasn't had the expected start to his career. But, I mean, he's proven to be athletic. He can score. When he gets post-ups, when he gets ISOs, he can score. And he got definitely way more defensive potential than CJ McCollum. He obviously wouldn't be the number one option because Lillard. But I think he'd still be way more happy as a second option who's getting the ball when Lillard is sitting on the bench than now where he's barely the third option and also on a similar role than the leader of the team, Jimmy Butler.
But is it really a player like Wiggins that different to CJ? Like, Wiggins is mainly a offensive player who can score, and that's basically what McCollum did, except for the fact that McCollum was better. So I don't think they should trade for a one dimensional player like Wiggins. I was thinking whether LeBron stays or no. I think that CJ McCollum for Kevin Love would be great for both sides. CJ McCollum would have his own team. He's an Ohio native, and Kevin Love would get rid of the system of Tyronn Lue and would play alongside Joseph Nurkic inside and would have Lillard outside. If they were able to sign a bunch of 3-and-D guys, I think that Portland could compete better, that team, that way.
I actually really like that idea, to be honest.
Yeah, that's not bad. But you do have like two really slow white guys in your front court, and I don't know if that could work against.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Atlantic West.
Nurkic is going to want a lot of money this summer, so I think they already have a really bad salary situation. So I think they should just let him walk in free agency.
The defense would be horrendous, though.
Not sure about letting Nurkic go because
Yeah, he's the only guy you really have, and like you need to hold on to because your salary cap is so bad, so it's not like you can go out and get a free agent or anything.
And what about trading Lillard?
wow, that's a bit drastic. Because I mean, Portland they already lost so many stars or like higher level role players that I don't know if they'll find such great players as Lillard, LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicholas Batum, Wesley Matthews, etc. again soon. And I mean, I think they should try it again around Lillard, even if he didn't play that well in the playoffs.
I agree.
But if you-
Lillard is that not easy. Is not really easy to replace.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Lillard, especially in the regular season, has been playing on a level that hasn't been seen that often from a point guard. I mean, he has been putting up amazing stats. Playoffs career isn't as amazing, but he's always proven to be clutch. So I don't know why that wouldn't translate to the playoffs either anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that a guy like Andrew Robertson for them would be great because, like, every team has, for example, the Warriors have Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry. Klay Thompson can guard the best perimeter guy, and Curry can kind of rest in the defensive end and watch the lanes and all that. But the Blazers right now had two liabilities in Lillard and McCollum. So if you get rid of McCollum, and stay with Lillard, you will have the offensive talent of Lillard, which is incredible. It's really tough to find another guy like him. And if you bring, I don't know, any outside stopper, I think that if they are able to make enough cap space for that, it would be really necessary.
If you were going to trade Lillard, I think if you went to Philadelphia and you traded Lillard for Markel Fultz and the Lakers pick that they have, which is going to be top 10. So Fultz and a top 10 pick for Damian Lillard.
Wow, that's crazy. I also thought about I know it's a bit risky, but Kawhi Leonard for Damian Lillard straight up.
No way.
I don't know. I mean, if now Leonard comes in the summer and says, "I want to play here," fuck Joe. So I don't know.
Yeah, but like, as San Antonio isn't accepting that trade anyways, I mean, Portland would definitely do it if Lillard says he wants to go, but like, no way San Antonio accepts.
Well, then,
What if you did Lillard and McCollum for Kawhi Leonard?
Nah. But I mean, Mamba, if you're having a superstar that is saying, "I don't want to play with you," and another team is offering you a superstar of the level of Damian Lillard, wouldn't you accept?
Well, yeah, but problem is Kawhi Leonard isn't really saying that he wants to go.
Who knows? Who knows, man? Who knows?
Uh, he's there currently discussing a 5 years extension, and it's reportedly on good terms. So it's probably more re-sign time than trading time. I mean, yeah, the off season will be long, and we'll probably see a few surprises. Yeah, all right. You three now present your roundtable topic, much or no, and I wanted to talk about the Cavaliers. They are playing against the Pacers. They are Game 7 at home later today, and I just wanted to point out how tragic that team is apart from LeBron. Like, honestly, it's a team that has been to the finals now for a good amount of time now. Since 2015, they haven't missed a final series. And now they pretty much only win when LeBron drops 45, 10, and 5. And like, they kind of remind me of the early Bulls, where MJ had to average over 40 points to even get them past the first or second round. And it's just not meshing. I mean, on defense, it's just tragedy. And on offense, I mean, they got a few very good shooters, but the problem is whenever shots aren't falling, and I mean, that happens to any team in basketball, they're just losing games, and there's no way to do something against it. What do y'all think? Do you have them winning tonight?
No, I don't think so. The Cavaliers, their defense is just terrible. And if Oladipo can reproduce what he had in Game 6, I think the Pacers are the better team.
Well, I can imagine LeBron losing in a Game 7 against a team like the Pacers in the first round. The game is also in Cleveland, so I think I got Cleveland. It will be a great match for sure, but I see Cleveland in the second round.
Yeah, I think with Cleveland, like their thing is that like they had to trade Kyrie, which meant basically like, oh no, we have to fill the hole that is Kyrie Irving. And so then they brought in like Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, D Wade, Derrick Rose. And so you just like, they took like an entire half of the season to learn how to adjust, and they couldn't because Isaiah Thomas is locker room cancer. So they had to overhaul the roster again and then learn how to play with each other. And when you're learning how to play with each other with Tyronn Lue as your head coach, it just doesn't really work out very well. And this first round against the Pacers is the result of that. So
yeah, it's crazy how bad they are playing. Like, they have no system at all in offense. You can see all guys, one dribbling and the others standing there. So that's not going to lead you anywhere. It's just a battle around. I don't know how to explain it. LeBron is playing great. His stats are incredible. But he's in giving any effort at all in defense, in the offensive side of the ball of the court. You don't even, if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he doesn't know what to do. So it's so weird the situation they're right now at.
Yeah, Anthony Love, as your Love, aren't you a bit disappointed by his performance? Because he had a very solid season as center the whole regular season, and now he's really struggling on offense, and on defense he's just awful. But I mean that's been the case for a long time now.
Yeah, that's not anything new. No, it's been a bit disappointing, but like you look at his last game, Game 6, and he was like 3 for 10 or whatever. 3 for 11, I think. But, he only played like 24 minutes. And when you're, people are saying, "Oh, it's the '07 Cavs again." It's like, no, you have an all-star on the court, but he's not shooting more than 10 times a game. And like I've watched a couple of the games, and he's just like standing in the corner. Like, they never run post-ups, they never run any sort of pick and rolls, pick and pops. It's like, ooh, let's run another pick and pop with Jeff Green, because Jeff Green's jump shot is what's going to win us the series, boys. So it's just like, I mean, Kevin Love has been criminally misused since he got to Cleveland, and I mean, this series isn't really anything different. I mean, no, he's had a few good playoff series in the past before, but he's never been like a great playoff player. And I think this series, combined with just like, how just misused he is, that's really, it's kind of the death of him.
Well, I just checked, and you're right. He's shooting not many times, but he's like having 32% from the field. So you cannot. It's like so bad how Tyronn Lue is using him. The system is, I don't know. It's like they don't know who Kevin Love is. Kevin Love isn't a 3-point shooter. I mean, he shoots great at 3-point. He's great at shooting 3-pointers, but he's not a 3-point shooter. He's a post player. He's a player you can use in pick and pops, but he's not a guy like Kyle Korver that has to stay in the corner. And it's been 3 years now, no, 4 years now in Cleveland, and they haven't even realized it yet. So it's not like, I don't feel it's Kevin Love's fault. He's still an all-star, but I just want him to get rid of the team. That's why I wanted him in Portland, because he isn't Kevin Love in Cleveland.
But that he's being used as a spot-up shooter is also a result of the LeBron effect, I think. It happened to Chris Bosh as well. When you have LeBron James, you can't have a power forward that can't shoot.
I don't say that he can shoot. It's just making plays. Not the team is not LeBron James. LeBron James has a lot of good role players. Kevin Love, I mean, in 2014 he was the best big man in the league. So you have to also make plays for him. I don't know, just throw him in the post and let him work. Make pick and pops, like Anthony said, just not making pick and pops with Jeff Green. Just Kevin Love more. You have to give him confidence. He's also having really bad luck with the injuries, which is causing him not having any straight effective seasons. But you have to realize that Kevin Love is not another role player. He's an all-star, and until they don't figure out how to use him, he's not going to be the player he can be.
I agree, but it happens a lot when to bigs when you play next to LeBron James. I think it's partly a by effect of that.
Yeah, but you could say that, like, I mean, that's less like LeBron effect and more just like too many cooks in the kitchen. Like with Miami, you had Dwayne Wade, who's a primary ball handler, and you had LeBron James, who's as primary ball handler as it gets, and then you have like Chris Bosh, who's just sort of third wheeling. So I think this just falls more on the on the two GMs for not recognizing, like, hey, maybe we should go get a DeAndre Jordan-esque player to put alongside this guy, because this isn't, like, you shouldn't put a post-up player next to two primary ball handlers. That's just sort of dumb, right? But I mean, it is what it is, and yeah.
Yeah, all right. That's it for the roundtable now. We discussed a few themes about the playoffs. And I mean, just like a question to end it up, have you been happy with the playoffs so far? Do you think those are good playoffs, enjoyable playoffs, or was it more disappointing?
Yeah, there have been a bunch of upsets now. I didn't expect the Utah Jazz to advance, and that kind of the Pelicans either. So that kind of surprises is always make the players more interesting. And for the future, I see a bunch of matchups that are really interesting. So yeah, I'm really happy for the players right now.
Yeah, it's been great if you ask me.
It's been terrible. I hate it. That's only because of the Cavs.
Alright.
No, other than the Cavs, it's been a good time.
Alright, yeah, I think I've been joining. I think it's the most parody in the playoffs we've had in the few last years. Anyways, let's get on to our first debate today. And it's gonna be an all-time debate about all-time rankings and where do we think Hakeem Olajuwon ranks. So the question will be whether or not he is top 5 all-time, all positions combined. So yeah, guys, who wants to start it off with his arguments?
I don't think he's top 5. If you compare him to two centers that really no one considers top 5, like Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson, they're just better. I mean, people say Hakeem is better than Robinson just because of one series he badly outplayed him, but that logic is so flawed. You could say Jason Terry is better than LeBron James just because he outplayed him in one series. If you look at the head-to-head matchups in the regular season, their stats are basically identical, just that Robinson has slightly better efficiency. If you look at Shaquille O'Neal in the 1995 finals, he outplayed Hakeem. He shot 60% from the field while putting up 28 points and 6 assists. So I don't think he's just worse than those two players, and they are really not top 5.
Well, the thing is, I personally rank him top 5 all time. My two main arguments about it are his playoff performances and his defense. People often forget that, defense is 50% of the game of basketball and isn't really reflected in most stats, but yet it has a great impact. I mean, we can all agree Hakeem is one of the greatest defenders of all time. Personally, I think he's the greatest ever. I mean, he's averaged for his career 3.1 blocks per game. Nowadays, it's amazing if someone gets 3.1 blocks per game over a season. Didn't happen in a long time. He just did it for his whole career. In addition to that, he has nearly 2 assists as a center for his whole career. And in the playoffs, I mean, he got 2 rings. He's pretty much the only other superstar that didn't play on the Bulls to win a championship in the Michael Jordan era. And while he never played him in the finals, he was opportunistic enough to then beat any other legend that also played at that time that faced him. And I mean, Charles Barkley, John Stockton, Karl Malone, they all didn't get a ring at that time. And he did, by leading probably even worse teams. And I mean, he got 2 finals MVPs. He outplayed many other centers.
Well, you mentioned that defense is 50% of the game, and that's true, but when you're looking at individuals, defense is less important because you can impact offense in many different ways. You can't carry a defense on your own, or at least it's much harder. Like, who's better, Tony Allen or James Harden? It's a no-brainer. And on offense, Hakeem really wasn't like top 5 worthy. He never led the league in an offensive stat. Yeah,
I think
And if you
that's
look,
a little misconstrued because, like for a perimeter defender, you're usually only guarding one person and then occasionally giving help defense. Whereas if you're a center and a rim protector, you're basically guarding the most efficient area on the basketball court, which is around the rim. And if you can restrict shots from there, then your impact is like so much more incredibly felt. Also rebounding, defensive rebounds are a defensive accomplishment. So, you factor in that the guy averaged like 13 rebounds for a good many seasons. And, the guy impacted the game so much more beyond, he's probably the best defender and by that logic, the most impactful defender of all time. So, he
you're
might not be the
forgetting
best
Bill
offensive
Russell.
player.
I agree with Anthony on that one because, well, you gave a good example of perimeter defense about that. But I mean, I could do the same thing the other way around about center position. Who would you rather take, Rudy Gobert or Enes Kanter? One is great offensively, the other is great defensively, and both aren't that great on the other end. And there also, it's a no-brainer.
But Enes Kanter is not the best example of a great offense, no defense center. You'd have to take someone like Karl Anthony Towns or Nikola Jokic.
Well, as of Hakeem Olajuwon, I used to have him top 5. But after reading a recent blog, shout out to Cam, I had to reconsider my ranking, and I now have him barely. He's 6th right now for me, so I'm like in the middle of both positions. I understand both points, but the fact that Hakeem didn't even deserve his MVP makes me think that he doesn't deserve the credit of being a top 5 player of all time. Also, even though he didn't have as much help as other superstars, he had a bunch of first-round exits, which some of them are bad. I mean, you cannot lose if you're a top 5 player of all time. You cannot lose to the Dallas Mavericks. So, for me, the talent he had, he's a top 2 defender of all time. So for me, he's right there in the conversation. In the playoffs, he stepped his all-around game. He deserved his 2 Finals MVPs. He outplayed every single center of his era. So yeah, I get the point of being elite, the best player in the 90s. With Michael Jordan out of the equation, but I also think that a player like Tim Duncan, who was in the top for more time than Hakeem, should be considered above him.
You said he outplayed every single center in his era, but that's just false.
No, I mean, you just said that Shaquille O'Neal played great in the 95 finals, but come on, man. Hakeem was just all around better. He swept his ass. If you have the Rockets team without Hakeem and the Orlando Magic team without Shaq, you would see it's a 7-game series. You have Penny Hardaway versus Clyde Drexler and a bunch of other guys. So, and it was a swept. If you are the 2 superstars, I don't know, I have to check the stats, but Hakeem Olajuwon had a series of his lifetime, and Shaquille underperformed.
I disagree. Shaq put up 28 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists on 60% field goal shooting. Hakeem Olajuwon had 33 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists on 48 shooting. So I think Shaq outplayed Hakeem.
Come on, man. There's a 13-point differential. You just said 20 points for Shaquille O'Neal. That's garbage for him. And
28.
28. Well, that's not that bad. But my bad. But you just said Hakeem 33 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists. Come on, man. Is this LeBron on steroids or what?
But Shaq had nearly the identical stat line with a few more points, but much better efficiency. So you can't say he outplayed everyone. In the regular season, Shaquille O'Neal also clearly outplayed him. 22 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists on 55% shooting for O'Neal, and for Olajuwon, only 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists on 45% shooting. So clearly, he didn't outplay every single center in his era.
Well, as of Shaquille O'Neal, you can outplay someone when you're swept by him. As you like
Why
a
not?
lot. Well, come on, man. The goal of basketball is winning. If you don't win a single team out of 7 possible, you're not outplaying the star of the other team. It's like saying Damian Lillard. It's impossible. On the other hand, Hakeem had a way higher net rating than Shaquille, considering that you like advanced stats. So I don't think that Shaquille O'Neal nearly outplayed Hakeem Olajuwon. And the proof of so is just a 4-game series and the finals MVP going to Hakeem.
Well, winning and net rating, like you mentioned, is really it depends on a lot of other factors besides the play of the star player. Also, if you want to look at advanced stats, Shaquille O'Neal, David Robinson, and Dirk Nowitzki all clearly have better advanced stats.
Yeah. I think that it doesn't really matter about a single series because, like, we are looking at the complete career. And, I mean, that series was won by Hakeem, and, I mean, it was a sweep. Tip in game 1, pretty much crushing the hopes. So I'd say he dominated him. But I don't think that's the most important part of the debate.
Yeah, I know. I just
You mentioned earlier.
wanted to point it out that because Hakeem was the leading scorer in every single game, and I don't think that Hakeem's career is just those 2 finals. I just wanted to point it out, but Hakeem's overall impact, the defensive stats he had throughout his career, and the consistency. Also, the 1986 run he had with Ralph Sampson was impressive. He won to the Showtime Lakers, and that's quite overlooked. But yeah, in the other hand, also you have those first round exits in the middle and the fact that he didn't deserve an MVP. So it's kind of a different style of career that's overlooked by the media and overrated by some fans that only see those races. So yeah, whether or not he's top 5, I think he belongs to the conversation.
So, like, because if we're going to rank him, if you're going to say he's not top 5, you have to put players over him, right? So I think outside of Mamba here, I think we can all agree that LeBron, Michael, and Kareem are all top 3. I think that's just consensus. And then after that, like, so there's the 4 and the 5 spot. So you have, like, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Wilt Chamberlain, and Bill Russell are usually the other people that fill out that top 5 spot. So, like, I think Hakeem definitely has a very, very good argument for being better than any of those players. So, like, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
To me, I think around the number 10 spot, somewhere like that, he's just not good enough on offense for me. He was kind of average efficient, and it wasn't like crazy high usage. So that's just my reasoning.
Hold up, Query. For his career, he averaged 22 points per game on 50% shooting, 70% from the line. He averaged 27 points per game twice, 26 point per game twice too. He won the league MVP, was 12-time All-NBA. I mean, that's pretty good offensively. Also knowing he was the leader of the Rockets offense. And I mean,
what's his true
you're
shooting
saying he's
percentage?
not that efficient, 50% field goal percentage is pretty damn efficient.
Well, for a center, I don't think like it's that crazy. Yeah. What
Well,
was his true shooting percentage?
His career
Yeah.
true shooting percentage is 55%.
Yeah, that's average.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
also drained down by his later seasons at 37, 38, 39, where he definitely was below average. But I mean, we won't reduce Hakeem Olajuwon's offensive productions to his seasons at 37, 38, 39 years old.
Also, in the playoffs, he averaged 26 a game for his career. So, yeah, if you look at the regular season stats, he's not top 5 at all. But the fact that as a player that had to carry the load for the most part of his career to step up in the playoffs, make runs, and improve your overall stats, I think that's quite impressive.
It is, but not top 5 worthy to me.
Query, you said he had a very high usage. I mean,
No.
he was above 30% usage only 3 times in his career, and most of the time he was around 25%. Well, of
Yeah, so
course,
he
it's
was.
pretty high, but I mean, it's pretty comparable, if not lower, than most other all-time greats.
Yeah, so he was average efficiently, and he also didn't have a high usage. So that proves his offense wasn't that amazing
I mean, he
enough for
still
me to put him
was
top 5.
the offensive leader of a 2-time champion, multiple times top seed in the Western Conference. Yeah.
And
Well,
Hakeem
he's
Olajuwon never had like a ball handler to like get
Clyde
him
Drexler.
open look. Yeah, but that was only for one season. For most
And
of his
Clyde-
career, he had Kenny the Jet Smith as his point guard. You're not going to be opened up for easy layups with Kenny the Jet Smith. Whereas if you look at Karl Malone, Tim Duncan had Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili for his entire career, as well as the Spurs system. Shaquille O'Neal, you had Penny Hardaway and Kobe Bryant. Bill Russell, you had Bob Cousy, and then Sam Jones and John Havlicek. Whereas Hakeem Olajuwon had to carry the offense, like he had to make and take the tough shots for his team. So it makes sense why his efficiency isn't like off the walls, because he had to make his own shot every time.
Also for the playoffs, as we were talking before about true shooting, his true shooting percentage for the playoffs, efficiency-wise, that in the playoffs, as you can see, most of the times goes down. Well, with Hakeem, it goes up, 57% of true shooting, and also his win shares per 48 are 0.19 for his career, which I consider first tired as well, especially considering that it's the playoffs and a player that is in like Hakeem Olajuwon, as you said, didn't have a guard for most of his career, so he had to act more of a handler as a center. So at times you have to force shots because other teammates don't have to, and that doesn't help your advanced stats. So you have to put some perspective into the accolades, the efficiency, the volume, and the team he had around.
All right. I think we discussed the main point of this debate. I'm sure we will. We won't agree today on where to rank Hakeem, but I mean, that's an everlasting debate in the NBA community. We can all agree that he's an all-time great, hopefully, and well,
For sure.
we'll see
For sure.
where to rank him. Now on to our last topic today, and that's something we'll try to get through every podcast. So discussing all the awards of this past regular season before they will actually officially be awarded. And today we'll start off with a pretty controversial one because we've already seen a bit of beef between two players about it. The Rookie of the Year award between Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons. So, guys, who do you think deserves it and should win it?
To me, it's clearly Simmons. He's by far the better passer. He's the better defender. He rebounds more. He's more efficient. Plus, he leads Mitchell in all advanced metrics. Mitchell really only puts up more points. So, it's pretty clear to me it's Simmons.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Even though I'm not a fan of bringing all-around game into the debates, the all-around perspective of Ben Simmons is just outrageous. He does everything but shoot. That means that Mitchell has more points, but every other metric goes to Simmons. Also, the team record of Simmons is better. All the advanced metrics on Simmons by win shares, he has 9, which is crazy for a rookie. And don't bring the not a rookie argument because he was in fact injured. He's not like he was practicing yet. He was practicing yet. He was in getting some muscle, but the reason why he didn't play in the beginning was because he was injured. So it's not like he was I don't know, having some holidays out there. He was rehabbing from an injury. Sure, he got stronger. Sure, he prepared his game for the next level, but he's still a rookie. He's adapting to the rules, so he's clearly the best rookie of this century for me.
I agree with you on one point that the argument that Ben Simmons isn't a rookie is just nonsense because, well, the rules are like that and he's technically a rookie, so let's just consider him like that. But I also got a point for Mitchell. Because personally, I believe we should have co-Rookie of the Years. Because we just have two incredible generational rookies right now. I mean, it's unseen. And I don't see why both shouldn't be rewarded. You already showed how great Ben Simmons was. But you got Donovan Mitchell. I mean, he's the first since Carmelo Anthony to lead a playoffs team in scoring. And he's doing that by averaging above 20 points per game. And that on barely 33 minutes per game. And while he might be slightly inefficient, that's excusable, seeing that as a whole, the Utah offense isn't that efficient and is more reliant on slowing down the pace. And that even drained down the stats. So just think about that. He averages over 20 points per game as a rookie, and that's even drained down stats because of the play style of Utah with a very slow pace, trying to outplay the opponent more than play well yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I get that the co-Rookie of the Year idea is great, considering how good both players are. But I mean, for me, giving an award to two players, I would like to rank to the best one, just to one, and that's why I had to give it to Simmons. In the end of the day, the Rookie of the Year award is like exciting for the young guys as a matter of motivation, but it doesn't matter at all legacy wise. So I don't doubt that Donovan Mitchell will be eventually a perennial All-Star, a superstar in the game, maybe a potential MVP. And also, I see Ben Simmons as one of the faces of the NBA, not in many time. Regardless of who's winning, both players are incredible, polished, unique.
I agree. Even if Mitchell is as good as Simmons, which he isn't in my eyes, co-awards totally ruin the point of awards. Instead of awarding the the best, then you're just awarding every good player, or it totally ruins the point of awards in my eyes.
Yeah, I think Mitchell. I'm going for Mitchell as Rookie of the Year. If you further efficiency, Mitchell has a true shooting percentage of 54%. Ben Simmons has a true shooting percentage of 56%. So that's really that's pretty even. And like Mamba said, Donovan Mitchell is in Utah, which is a really slowly paced offense. So it's sort of, and the fact that he's the primary scoring option on that team. I don't think he's carrying the Jazz because the Gobert and Ricky Rubio are there, as well as a bunch of good shooters and a good coach. But with Simmons, you have Embiid, you have Saric, and you have a lot of other, you have Markel Fultz who just came in. You have a lot of good players on that team as well who can sort of help the load and help him get easier shots. So I think, I think Mitchell's had an incredible rookie season. The West is a lot harder than the East, and yet Mitchell has still led this team to this point. But yeah, that's my argument for Mitchell as Rookie of the Year.
And also on the defensive side, I think Donovan Mitchell, while he certainly was helped by the huge system, he still had a great year defensively. I mean, just from the basic stats, 1.5 assists per game is pretty good, especially as he's guarding point guard, shooting guard. So that's really one of his main jobs is getting steals. And also like a defensive rating of 5 is very good for a rookie, because most of the time rookies on the perimeter will have a tough time guarding the opponents as they lack experience. But here, thanks to his athleticism and just his instincts, he was able to step it up and had a very good defensive year, probably better than Simmons too.
I disagree. I think Simmons' length is just makes him the better defender overall. But yeah, it's not a super huge difference. Also, Mitchell actually his offensive rating is actually lower than the Jazz's offensive rating. So, which means his inefficiency is actually hurting his team.
Nah, Grady. I mean,
that just shows how bad the advanced stats can be at times, regardless of the fact that I often use them. This is just doesn't make any sense. If you see the Jazz games, you could see that if Donovan doesn't shoot, if Donovan doesn't create his shot for himself, you have Ricky Rubio, who's a great point guard, a great passer, a great defender, but his ability to create his own shot is basically when they sag off on him. Joe Ingles is a great sharpshooter and passer. Favors can shoot the mid-range. Crowder can spread the floor. But other than that, there's nothing who can drive by himself, make a step back. That's shit. So for me, if they don't have Donovan, they would be borderline a playoff team and they would probably fall.
And I don't really see how he can be hurting. I just saw the stat in comparison to when he is off the floor. So when Donovan is on the floor, the Jazz are 7 points better, like in points differential with the opponent. 7 points, that's pretty damn huge. And that as a rookie, I mean, it's pretty amazing and just shows what type of impact he has, especially offensively.
But those on-off splits really aren't reliable because it's so dependent on the lineups you're being played in. So I don't really trust those kind of statistics.
There's a point to be made, but 7 points still is a pretty big sample size.
yeah, it's impressive, but not more impressive than Ben Simmons.
Yeah, well, but like Ben Simmons, he's pretty much always playing with Embiid, so there the argument of the reliance on lineups is pretty big, just as for Donovan Mitchell with Gobert.
Yeah, so that's why you don't use the stat, because it's not reliable.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a pretty good amount of stats that aren't always reliable, yet we still use them. Yeah, anyway, anyone got something to add about this debate?
If the Rookie of the Year was decided by the playoffs, Donovan Mitchell would be the front runner right now.
Yeah, well, that's clear. I mean, he's been having amazing playoffs.
Simmons also averaged almost a triple double for a 5 game series. And also, by the way, the other thing you said, that Simmons also always played with Embiid. He had a 16-win run in the end of the season, and half of it was without Embiid. So even though the teams were kind of whack in that stretch, that means that still Simmons by himself and the other role players had a a 7-8 game winning streak. So that just proves how Simmons is able to carry the load by himself.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I think he also definitely deserves to win Rookie of the Year just as much as Donovan. I think that'll do it for this debate. I believe this is one of, if not the best, rookie class of the last 20 years, if not even more. We got
Probably.
2 generational players, but apart from that, you also got Jason Tatum. It's Josh Jackson, who hasn't really even shown his potential yet. You got De'Aaron Fox. Even Lonzo Ball has been improving
Kyle
all season
Kuzma.
long. It's just great rookie class.
Andre Ingram.
Yeah. I mean, he got great per 100 possession stats, and his advanced
Bogdanovic.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. Anyone got something to add to playoffs, to rookie race, to anything?
Luka Doncic is next.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah, I'm hyped for that.
All right. That'll do it. Thanks everyone for listening. You can find us on SoundCloud and YouTube, mostly every Sunday. This episode will be posted on Monday, but normally it will always be on Sundays. Yeah. Thanks guys for being here, and see you until next time.
Peace.